So there's this beautiful quote I love to post, and it says, "The next time love visits you, I pray that it stays." And I genuinely, truly do pray that you experience an amazing, awesome love that is truly best for you. And some may say that would be you finding your soulmate, right? And some people call it different things. Some people don't even believe in soulmates. I do, but I guess I have a remixed version of how I view the whole soulmate thing. Now, me personally, I believe that a soulmate is not someone that you are guaranteed to be with, right? Because unfortunately in life, people they make their own decisions. People hold on to a lot of fears. There's a lot of things that get in the way of two people truly coming together. However, that soulmate is an individual you will feel a very intense connection with. It is someone that is truly in alignment with who you are and where you're headed. Okay. And so I want to help you be able to identify when you have come across that soulmate. And in the context of God, like how we would apply the soulmate ideology to God, the way that I see it is that though they may not be this person that you are guaranteed you're going to end up with, right? God still knows who is truly best for you. And when we include God in the process, we can end up with the person who is truly best for us as you are best for them. Okay. But again, I still want you to know some of the signs or be aware of the signs that will help you identify when you may indeed have your soulmate right in front of you. So let's get right to it. And one of the first, if not possibly the biggest sign, or at least one of the biggest signs, is that you will be able to be yourself with them. Now, here's the reason why this is one of the biggest signs to me, is because so many people are dating and they're not bringing their true self, they're bringing their representative, okay? Excuse me. And unfortunately, people are bonding or experiencing chemistry with this representative that isn't true to who this individual is, as well as you are not showing who you truly are, and that creates a lot of problems. There are a lot of people, a lot of women who have allowed their representative to stick around long enough to where they drew this man in, where they were able to proceed into a relationship, even get married. But the reality is that you cannot suppress your true self forever. At some point, it will come out. And when it comes out, it will create conflict, either conflict within you, conflict with your partner, because now they're seeing another side of you that may not be in alignment with who they are and what they truly want. And some people, because I feel like I'm hearing someone say it in my head right now. Some people will say, well, if someone truly loves you, like they can accept the changes. Not necessarily true. Because again, if they fell for you off of a false pretense, then expecting that they will stick around when the true you may be completely different than what you presented, well, that's a problem. And so a lot of people end up getting what they want, but not ending up with the person they truly need or are best for them because they weren't being themselves. So if we're talking about identifying your soulmate, well, it starts with being who you are. And understand that the soulmate, this person who's best for you, will embrace who you are. If anything, like being true to yourself is one of the greatest weeding out processes that you can have while dating, because you want to make sure this person truly loves you for who you are, can embrace all the little things about you. If you hide it and suppress it, you're not allowing yourself to properly evaluate what's going on. And so many couples have fallen in love with the surface of the individual, but not who the individual truly is. And they don't really like each other at their core because they don't really know each other at their core. All right. So you got to be true to yourself. And so if you're saying, well, I don't feel like I can be myself, because let's say some of you right now are in a relationship or you're dating someone and you're struggling to be yourself. Well, the question to ask is is the struggle because of your own internal fear or unresolved issue that's not allowing you to let the true you out? Or is it due to what this person does or has said? So, for example, let's just say, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know why this is coming to mind, but we're going to run with this. Let's just say who you truly are as a woman is someone who wants to be at home, raising a family. You don't care for this career life. You don't want to be out there working like that. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's who you truly are, right? But you have been conditioned, maybe we can use the word programmed, to having to say that no, you're independent, you're gonna do for yourself, you're gonna work, you wanna be out there, and you feel like you have to live up to this image, right? And so now you meet this man, and though he's giving you no reason to not be true to what your real desire is, you, in trying to keep up this image, are fearful of actually acknowledging and saying, I would love to be a stay-at-home mother. Okay? That's very different from you're dating a man and he says out of his mouth, and I'm just an example, I can't stand a woman who wants to be a stay-at-home mother. They're useless. That's his words. That's not mine. I'm just giving an example. But he's talking bad about it, right? And so now, because you know he doesn't like that kind of a woman, and you like this guy, and you want to keep this guy, you suppress being honest about who you truly are. That right there, that second example is proof, or at least this is some level of evidence this is not your soulmate. If you can't be you, if what he likes and desires does not align with who you truly are, what are we doing here? It's pointless to move forward. So let's get on to the next point, but bottom line here is you can be yourself with them if they truly are your soulmate. All right, so another key to identifying your soulmate is that they make you feel stronger for them than you felt for anyone before them, okay? Now, this is another, let me put it like this. The unfortunate reality is that there are tons of people who are married who have stronger feelings for someone other than their partner, okay? And for various reasons, they let go or walked away from that situation, or they had to move on from it as far as they're concerned. And they decide to marry, or they still want to be with someone, so they get with this new person who, yes, they may care about them, they may have love for them, they may like them, but they do not feel as strongly for them as they did for a previous person. Now, some people may feel like ain't nothing wrong with that. You got to move on. And, you may not, who knows if the previous thing you felt was something else going on there. There may be all kinds of rationalizations that people try to throw out when it comes to this topic. However, no matter what was driving the stronger feelings, as far as I'm concerned, to get with someone else and they don't surpass that, at the very least, they don't match that, you're playing with fire. And here's one example of how that fire will burn that person up. Person gets married or gets in another relationship, whatever. Let's just use marriage. They get married, they move on from an individual, and that individual, the previous one, was the one they felt that strong connection to. Let's say 3-4 years into the marriage, things are cool. Like they like their marriage, but it's not, it ain't nothing special. They may not say that out loud, but deep inside it's like, I'm cool. That old flame, let's call them, somehow resurfaces and makes contact. And let me tell you, when that contact is made, if that person, that woman, let's just use a woman right now, if she is in a vulnerable space, all right, that contact can ignite, even if she's not, it could ignite things. But if she is in a vulnerable space, it can really set some things off. And now, especially this old flame is now professing feelings and wanting to be with them. Like, I've seen so many scenarios where things just went crazy after that. Because now this woman, this is going to sound bad, but it is what it is. It's easy to settle when you feel like better does not exist or you don't have access to better. It's easier to settle. But once better is staring you in the face, settling becomes so much more difficult, and having to, in this context, go home and look at this person that you're not really into when this other individual you feel more strongly about is back in your life. Oh man, it's a heavy thing to deal with. And there might be some of you watching this right now dealing with this. Anyways, this is why I personally have a rule where, like, I don't believe in getting with someone new unless they have truly set the highest bar as far as how I feel for somebody, okay? Because I just feel like, how can I say this is truly the best person for me, but there's someone else I feel stronger for? And how can I proclaim this to be my soulmate when there is a soul that I feel more drawn to? Okay? So to me, for us to say this is it is because they have indeed surpassed all that, right? And many people experience it. Hell, even, I'm going to keep using the marriage example. There are people who, let's say it wasn't, they had an old flame, then they got married. Let's say they married someone, they were young, right? They got married at 23. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number. And the reasons they got married was like the family liked them. They thought it was a good situation. They wanted a family. It wasn't, I felt this amazing love and connection with this individual. It's just there was a lot of good reasons to move forward, okay? 10 years in the marriage, whatever. They meet someone else, and now they experience a connection like they've never felt before. And now they're struggling because now this person, it makes them see more clearly what they don't have with their husband, what they don't have at home, all right? We're not going to get into how they should handle that right now, but I'm just telling you, this happens. I've had many clients this has happened to. I've had many people who were married, got divorced, and eventually met someone and could say, I never felt this strongly even about the man I was married to for 10, 15, however many years, okay? And now all of a sudden they're meeting this individual that in very short time, they're feeling like, sometimes instantaneously, feeling this strong feelings towards. Bottom line is, that has to be in place as far as I'm concerned for us to say this is your soulmate. They have to have surpassed everyone else before them. Otherwise, again, it's a trap being set that can cause a lot of problems in the future. All right, so let's keep this thing going. And another key to identifying your soulmate is that you two do not conflict, you complement each other, okay? So what I'm highlighting here is the fact that I do believe opposites can attract. I believe, honestly, opposites in various ways, not always, but in various ways, opposites are one of the healthiest unions you could have for a relationship, because you want two people who, again, like where I'm weak, they're strong. Where they're strong, you know, I'm weak or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like we balance each other out. We create harmony. When you have two people who are just alike, that can create conflict, or sometimes the differences can create conflict as well. And that's what I'm really trying to point out, is that if your differences create conflict, create feeling uncomfortable, they're very not difficult to deal with, because I don't want to frame it that way, but they cause a problem. Well, then that to me is evidence this is not the person for you. But we can meet an individual that we have differences with, but for some reason, and the reason I believe is because there's a deeper connection there, we don't conflict. We know how to play off each other. We know how to move in harmony together. Like you could have, and I'm just giving a very simple example. You could have an introvert and an extrovert. So introvert, someone who likes to be home to themselves, not around a bunch of people, all these things. I'm just giving a quick overview of it. Extrovert, they feed off the energy of people. They want to be outside. They want to talk, all these different things. there are going to be some combinations of introverts and extroverts that piss each other off, all right? They will conflict. And again, I believe because foundationally, they don't have that deeper connection. They don't have the other things necessary for them to want to embrace each other's differences, all right? And what I mean by that is the deeper we like someone or we feel for someone, the more we want to accommodate certain things about them, okay? But when we are viewing them, we don't have that level of love for them, but we may view them as beneficial to us in some kind of way. So yeah, we may want to date them because they can provide this and that, but we don't really like them at their core. Well, that individual, we're not going to be, whether we realize or not, as accommodating. We won't be as quick to be flexible. I always say, likability creates flexibility, okay? And so that's why you will see sometimes people who do have differences, but it doesn't cause a bigger problem. And because those two people who have a deeper connection, who are soulmates, they know how to communicate with each other in a way that eliminates or limits the chances of conflict occurring even with their differences, okay? Now, I want to be very clear. I don't believe certain differences we should be trying to push past. So for example, spiritual belief differences, I think that you're playing with fire with that. I'm just not going to suggest that, okay? Even differences such as how we want to live or what we're looking for out of a relationship. So for example, if you have the man who doesn't want kids and the woman who wants to have a family, I'm not going to tell you to push past that. I don't care how good y'all get along. That's a huge difference you can't just ignore. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different things we can point to, but those big deal issues, don't overlook that, all right? But differences like, well, they like to be more in nature and you like to be in the city, like things like that. I think that's where, okay, we can still find harmony with each other despite these things. All right, so before I get to the next one, quick reminder, I want to see you at my next event. Currently on the Time for a Change tour. Go click the link in the description or in the comment section. Get your tickets. You can also get books there. You can get coaching at that link. It's all to my shop, where all the resources that I have are available to you. So again, go to stephanspeakshop.com or click the link in the description or in the comment section. All right, so now the next key to identifying your soulmate is that there is going to be a mutual attraction. You know, I say sometimes, God, I forgot what I say. But the point that I was gonna make, or the quote highlights how sometimes the people that we fall in love with or we experience a connection with may not always come in the package that we expect. And when people hear me say that, they automatically think I'm saying, oh, God's gonna send you someone you're not even attracted to, but that's who you're supposed to be with. That's not what I'm saying, okay? I personally do not believe soulmates, romantic soulmates who are supposed to be together in a romantic relationship, are going to be people who don't have an attraction to each other. Now, again, attraction and looks, two different things, okay? It's not about they have to look a certain way, you have to look a certain way, but it's about there's an attraction. And we can all acknowledge that attraction can encompass other things as well. It's not just the physical, there's more to it that creates that attraction. But the attraction has to be there, okay? And one of the reasons why I feel like I have to highlight this is because I have seen many situations where a woman or a man is believing to themselves, I've met someone who's my soulmate. And let's just say this is not even someone they're dating. This is someone from afar. This is someone they admire, maybe even someone they work with, but they've never dated this individual. And they may be attracted to them, but they're not accounting for or even considering, is the attraction mutual? Is it two-sided? And I'm like, okay, and let's just say there's some situations where I knew for a fact that the other individual involved did not have an attraction. So it's like you're trying to convince yourself this is your soulmate, but there's not a mutual attraction here. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. And the reality is that people's willingness to move forward in a relationship is heavily dependent on, again, attraction. I want to stress, not looks, but attraction. For some people, looks too, if we're going to keep it real. But attraction has to be there. And I believe that whether people want to admit it or not, attraction is fuel in a relationship. Like, if you look at two people who've been together, and I was just saying this to someone who's now going through a divorce, and I said, one of the most unspoken issues in marriage and long-term relationships is loss of attraction. All right. Especially when that loss of attraction is heavily leaning on the physical aspect. And people feel like they're not allowed to let that be the issue. They're not allowed to point that out. It's, oh, you're shallow, oh, you're this, oh, you're that. And regardless of how people feel about that or how they view that, the reality is that it is still playing a huge role in people's ability to have successful, healthy relationships. Because when you remove that, a lot of things start to fall off with it. Okay? So if we understand that we need that as part of the fuel, as part of, you can say, even motivation within the relationship, well, that's going to be a part of what allows us to even come together in the first place. Plain and simple. So attraction must be mutual, not one-sided, but mutual, if we are identifying this individual as potentially your soulmate. All right, so we got a couple more to go, a few more to go. I'm going to try and make it a little faster. But another key to identifying your soulmate is that you feel safe in his presence. Okay? Now, it's important that I break it down like this. If you haven't healed and you meet your soulmate, the situation may scare you. How vulnerable you find yourself with this man may scare you. And because you've been through failed situations before or unsuccessful relationships before, you may still have a lot of questioning going on in your head. Do not confuse those inner conflicts that are very common with people who come across their soulmate, with how you feel when you are indulging in being with him. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times when you talk to these women who are experiencing these fears, experiencing these struggles, and even running from their soulmate, running from connection, what they can't acknowledge though is that when they're spending time with this man, they feel at ease. There's nothing about him as a man that makes them uncomfortable, okay? And if anything, that's part of what scares them, because they're so accustomed to men being a threat to their feelings, emotions, men doing things wrong, so to speak. At least that's what they've experienced in their life. And so when they see this guy who's just, they feel so amazing with, some women will start to question, is this too good to be true? Right? And start looking for something to be wrong. But I want you to be able to separate, again, that inner battle versus how you actually feel when you're with him, putting aside your own overthinking and all this other stuff. And another reason why I have to highlight this is because I've seen and know of situations where, let's say a woman has met that man, and let's just say for this example, because quick other quote I remember being told once upon a time is, anytime God wants to bring you the original, the devil will bring you an imposter. So I've seen many situations where a woman is in contact with this man who is her soulmate, whether it's through dating, friendship, acquaintances, work, whatever, right? But at the same time, she's dealing with some other guy. He may have been a boyfriend, he may have been someone she's dating, he may be an ex, whatever. And it's like this is all happening at once, and it creates confusion in her life. And dealing with this guy who's the soulmate, because again, if you haven't healed, there's so much that can make a woman feel fearful. She starts to feel like I'm just so confused, and then leans on the scripture that says God is not the author of confusion, which he's not. But she mistakes that for thinking because I feel confused in this situation, that must mean this guy who is my soulmate, or who I can identify as such, he must not be the one, because there's too much confusion and worry going on here. And it's like, no. The scripture said God is not the author of it. He did not create the confusion you're experiencing. That confusion is being created by your own fears, by the enemy, by outside noise, by other factors. That's not the man himself creating that confusion. That's not the guy that we're saying could be your soulmate creating that confusion. There's a difference between this dude telling you lies and giving you mixed signals versus he's doing what he's supposed to do, but your family or friends or somebody else is saying, nah, you can't trust that. You don't know what's speaking through them. You don't know why they're being so skeptical. You have to be careful with that. And the last point of this video will help you when it comes to that kind of a situation. But the bottom line is, how do you feel when you are in this man's presence? And when you feel peace, when you feel safety, when you feel love, that is a huge indicator that this may indeed be your soulmate. All right. And so another huge key to identifying your soulmate is that you will be able to receive spiritual confirmation. Okay? Now, different people may have a different opinion and view on what qualifies as spiritual confirmation. I have my perspective. I will share with you, but of course it's up to you to determine what truly is best for you in this regard. I am not a fan of interpreting signs. I am not saying God cannot give you signs. I am saying that people, if you lean on something that you have to interpret, then one, you're leaning on your own understanding to guide you, okay? And two, you're overlooking the fact that your interpretation can be wrong. I've seen tons of people talk about what this sign, and one, if I said that same sign, if I explained what happened to 10 different people, I would get various different interpretations. So that right there shows you how finicky that can be, okay? As well as I have seen people jump to certain conclusions because of the signs they're getting, and the conclusion they're jumping to, and a situation I'm thinking about right now, were for a fact wrong. They were dead wrong. And so what I'm a believer in, what I encourage all of you to do is, to receive spiritual confirmation, you have to go to God in prayer. You have to ask God, is this the person for me? Right? Is this my soulmate, whatever? Okay? And there's other questions to ask. I have a video on questions to ask God if you feel like you might have found your soulmate. But that's the big one you got to start with. Is this the man for me? And it's about hearing the answer within your spirit. Because again, many will ask that question. I'll give an example. Someone may go to pray and they ask God, I met this amazing man. Is this man for me? And right as she's about to finish the prayer, her phone rings. And it's the guy that she was praying about. And a lot of women will assume, because he called me, when I'm asking God if he's the one for me, that must be confirmation he's the one for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that. That you can't assume. I'm not saying it's not possible it could have, but you can't assume, all right? And people will run with that and they get themselves into deeper trouble. I believe you have to hear the answer within your spirit. And if you're struggling to hear an answer within your spirit, this is where fasting comes into place. Fasting brings a lot of clarity. Fasting, as far as I'm concerned, brings you closer to God and allows you to get the guidance that you need. And I think just also getting used to talking to God and asking questions and hearing God speak to you, so that when you have big questions like this, it'll be easier for you to navigate and recognize when you're hearing God rather than you're in your own head, so to speak. All right. But I do believe that spiritual confirmation is a huge piece of this. You should not, of course, if you're not a believer, then this part would not apply. Okay. But if you are a believer, then yeah, you cannot skip this. And I just have to stress, I know of many situations where people have skipped that specific step and just ran with what they thought was the case. Sometimes it's because they've had dreams as well. I want to throw that in there. It's not just signs, it's dreams as well. And people have to understand that that doesn't mean you're interpreting the dream correctly. And you should not assume what the dream means, because now you might put yourself in a situation you don't actually belong in. So consider that, but definitely get confirmation through prayer. And last but not least, quite possibly the most important key to identifying your soulmate is understanding that healing will allow you to see things more clearly and will allow you to embrace when that soulmate comes. So if you notice, what I mentioned many times in this video was how if you're not healed as a woman, and of course this can happen to a man as well, experiencing a deep connection, experiencing coming across your soulmate can scare the crap out of you. All right, I'm just gonna be real. It can really get some people going in the wrong direction because they don't know how to handle it. It's overwhelming. You know, it's hard to believe. You know, there's just so much that can then throw things left. And so it's important that we make sure we don't wait till we meet someone to try to go on our healing journey. The healing journey must start today. It must start as soon as possible, because that's what will allow you to be able to nurture and embrace when that soulmate comes. But also, the healing will allow you to see things more clearly. A lot of people's struggles and reasons why they end up in unhealthy relationships or end up with the wrong person is because a lack of healing creates a lack of awareness. It creates a situation where you start to excuse things that should not be excused. It creates fears that can lead you into becoming attached to this individual in an unhealthy manner. It can create so many problems and steer you in the wrong direction. And it's one of the reasons why I always say, when you haven't healed, you are 99% likely, and I know I'm just throwing out an exaggerated number, but it feels like 99% likely to choose the wrong person to be with, okay? Because you will not be able to see things clearly and navigate things in a way necessary to nurture a healthy relationship. Because even if you can meet the person, the soulmate, even if you're like, okay, I'm willing to walk in this and be with this person, what you don't realize is, because you haven't healed, you still have these triggers you may not even know about. And now this person does stuff because they're human, soulmate or not, they're human, they're not perfect, right? They may make a mistake, they may say something that they didn't even realize is a problem for you, not even in trying to, with any intent, bother you, but it just did. And now you're reacting in this very negative way, and things go left, and this one bad argument turns into all these other issues, and then the whole thing falls apart. And it could have all been avoided if we would have healed. Now, I feel the need to say this. Even if you have experience where it fell apart, it doesn't automatically mean it cannot ever come back together. That's a discussion you have to have with God. And you still have to make sure that even if you are hoping for things to come back together, the question you have to ask yourself is, am I healed, prepared, and ready for it? Because if I'm not, then what? It's like some people are so focused on getting that person back or meeting that person that they don't realize they're not in a position to be able to handle it. It's like a poor person. I mean, how you say poor person. It's like an individual who's struggling financially, praying and hoping for a windfall of money, not recognizing you are not in a place to be able to handle that kind of money. And then some people get it and blow right through it. Some people get it and end up having worse issues than they had before they had the money. They were happier when they were broke, okay? Because they were not ready for what they were praying for. So make sure that's not you. Do your part and allow God to guide you to the blessings in the person who is truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 5 important questions to ask God when you feel like you might have found the one. We've turned boyfriend and girlfriend into like pseudo marriages, okay? So even though our minds know we are not ready for marriage, but we feel like